Channel, you probably came over from TikTok, where I talk about all things home education and gentle parenting. In this video today, I wanted to talk about choices that you potentially have for your child for September. Obviously, a lot of people are thinking about going back to school, and some families, school is just not sitting right for them. And so in this video, I'm going to talk about your options, how to deregister, what to do if you don't have a child yet at school, but they are starting school in September and you're not feeling like it's right for them, and just how to go about that whole process, and then what it looks like when you are actually home educating. So first, let's do a little bit of myth busting, because I think there are a lot of false things going around about home education, partly thanks to COVID lockdown and what homeschooling looked like then, and I think we can all agree it was hell, and thankfully that is nothing like what home education looks like on a day-to-day basis when you are doing it through choice. Firstly, home education is completely legal. A lot of people think that you will get fined for taking your child out of school, but that only applies if your child is registered in a school. Home education is actually the legal default, so if you have never sent your child to school and you never apply for and accept a school place, you are by default legally home educating. So school is actually an opt-in service. Secondly, you do not have to follow a curriculum or have a structure or routine. That means that your home education can be completely tailored to your child. If your child thrives on structure and routine, then great, you can implement that. And if they prefer a more go with the flow attitude, you can do that at home as well. You do not have to spend any money to home educate. That means you do not have to buy curriculum or books or tutors. There is no obligatory purchase when you home educate, so what you spend is entirely up to you and what you can afford for your family. Another very common misconception about home education is that home educated kids do not socialise, and this is so far from the truth. I don't even know what to do with myself when it's said to me now. We actually have issues that we have so many different opportunities for socialising that we have to say no to things. And although this does depend on the area you live and obviously your child's personality type and how much you like socialising, generally this is not going to be an issue, and home educated kids are not isolated. Let's talk about deregistration. If you have a child who is registered at school, then in order to home educate them, you will need to deregister them. If your child is in a mainstream school in England or Wales, this process is very straightforward. This is often surprising to people. It's simply sending in one letter or email to the head teacher of that school. It is an instruction, not a request. So you are not asking permission to home educate your child. You are simply instructing the school to remove your child's name from that role. Once you have sent that letter, your child never needs to set foot in the school ever again. You also do not have to have meetings with the school, and you don't have to have phone calls with them. You don't have to fill out any forms, so you are free to start home educating. If your child is in a special school in England or Wales, then the process is slightly different. You need to write to the head teacher and your local authority and request permission to have your child's name removed from that role, but they cannot unreasonably refuse you. In that letter that you send to the local authority and head teacher, you should explain how you're planning to meet your child's needs, and you should also refer to the AHCP that your child has in that letter. Now, if you're in Scotland, the process is slightly different again. You need to write to the local authority and request permission to have their name removed from the role. And your child must still attend school until that is done, and that process usually takes around 6 weeks. Again, they cannot unreasonably refuse you. You do not have to follow this process in Scotland if your child is in a private school, or if they are moving local authority, or if they are leaving P7. And again, when you want to request permission to remove your child's name from the role in Scotland, it's a very good idea to include an outline of how you plan to home educate your child, opportunities for socialisation, resources you will use, groups, clubs and classes you plan on attending with your child, and things like that. If you are deregistering your child from a school in Northern Ireland, the process is pretty much the same as in England or Wales. You simply send a deregistration letter to the head teacher of your child's school. They cannot unreasonably refuse you. Hello, Yoda. Come on up then. This is whether your child has special needs or not. Here it is. As I mentioned earlier in the video, if you have a child who is not yet registered with a school, if you have not applied for and accepted a school place, then you are by default legally home educating, and you can just carry on as you are. When deregistering your child from a mainstream school in England or Wales, you do not have to contact the local authority, because one of the school's legal obligations is to contact the local authority and let them know that you have removed your child from the role, and the local authority will get in touch in their own time. You do not have to have any meetings with the local authority or telephone calls, and seasoned home educators will usually recommend that you keep all contact in writing, and this is to protect yourself and your child. Now, what do you do if the school refuses to deregister? Well, actually the school is breaking the law in this case, because they are legally obligated to follow the deregistration process. So you can send a follow-up letter, and this could include words to the effect of failure to deregister is a criminal offence and leaves the school open to prosecution. I will leave a link to the blog post that I wrote a long time ago with deregistration template letters. You can also grab the quick start guide from my bio in my TikTok account. Yoda's nose just went in my mouth. and it's wet and it tastes weird. Let's talk about what it actually looks like when you start home educating. A lot of parents have got misconceptions that they need to be sitting at a kitchen table. That is the very typical, usually American media portrayed idea of home education. It doesn't need to look anything like homeschooling or schooling. You don't need to be sitting down for it. In fact, I recommend that children are generally sitting down as little as possible. Of course, if your child likes sitting down, doing art or written work or anything like that, then go for it. Legally, you have to provide your child a full-time education according to their age, aptitude and any special needs. And again, that means it's completely tailored to your child. So a very typical day in the life of a home educator might include things like reading, art, baking, going out and seeing friends, trips to museums or theme parks or anywhere else you might fancy, playing computer games, designing comics, going to extracurricular clubs and classes, and any number of other things. If you follow me on TikTok, we do days in our lives, so you get an idea of what our home education setup looks like, and it is generally interrupted by Yoda. Your questions in the comments. A little fun fact to end it, in case you are bored with your children today and you just fancy a new topic of conversation. There is actually a job called being a nose. So in the perfume world, someone who creates the perfumes is called a nose, and they have to pass very difficult exams that involve identifying hundreds of different scents. So that might be something interesting to talk about your kids with today. From Yoda and I, be kind to yourself, be kind to your